McKenna was late again. She always was, not because she didn't care, but because she loved living on the edge, always tempting fate with her last-minute rushes. Earlier that evening, as she was heading to the station, she suddenly remembered she hadn't picked the dress she was to wear to her cousin's wedding the next day. Even though she was running late to catch the train and had plenty of other outfits to wear, McKenna just wanted to wear that particular dress. It showed off her figure beautifully. She wanted to stand out, because you never know, Mr. Right might just be there. The wedding was being held at the coastal city of Mombasa, by the beach, and there was no way on earth she was missing it. McKenna reached the Syokimau train platform out of breath. By the time she went through the security checks, the train was about to leave. Her skirt caught on a metal bench, and by the time she freed it, the whistle blew. McKenna ran, half laughing, half breathless, and the train conductor, seeing her determination, held the door open for just one more second. She jumped in, collapsing against the cool wall with a grin of relief. She found her seat and sank into it, adjusting her handbag and scarf. That's when she noticed someone watching her. A young man in a dark jacket, holding what looked like a camera bag. He smiled, a quiet, amused smile. She was still panting, tucking away her scarf, embarrassed. "Quite the entrance," he said gently, his eyes twinkling. "I'm training for the marathon," she replied, while laughing and still catching her breath. "Marathon of what? Missing trains?" asked Okwiri. They both burst out laughing, and something about that laugh loosened the tiredness in McKenna's shoulders. "Hi, my name is Okwiri," he introduced himself. "I'm McKenna," she said. The train rattled on through the countryside. Outside, the world slid by in blurs of amber and violet. Fields, forests, hillsides, and the fading evening light. "Are you taking pictures?" McKenna asked. "Trying to. But she sort of ran into the frame," replied Okwiri. "Oh no, I ruined your masterpiece," McKenna said in mock offense. "Actually, maybe you saved it," Okwiri grinned. For a while, they didn't speak. The quiet between them wasn't awkward, just calm, like a shared exhale. McKenna cast side glances at Okwiri. He was taking pictures of the scenery outside as the train moved along. "Do you always travel with your camera?" she asked. "Always. It helps me see the world differently," replied Okwiri. "Are you a professional photographer?" McKenna asked again. "Sometimes, but mostly just a guy who can't sit still. Trains, towns, people, they all tell stories," said Okwiri. Maybe one day you'll tell mine," she said. "I already am," he said softly. She turned to look at him, and for a brief second, the train's dim lights reflected in their eyes, like the start of a story neither saw coming. When the train finally rolled into Mombasa the next morning, the warm coastal air swept through the open doors. McKenna gathered her bags and stretched. "Well, this is me. My cousin's big day awaits," she said. "Enjoy it. And don't miss the return train," he chuckled. "You sound like you doubt me," McKenna teased. "Let's just say I've seen your running form," he said. They both laughed. And just like that, McKenna disappeared into the bright Mombasa morning, while Okwiri stayed behind with his camera bag and a curious smile. By noon, the wedding was in full swing. The beach glowed under a soft golden sun, decorated with palm leaves, white fabric, and shells glistening in the sand. McKenna, in her carefully chosen dress, looked stunning. She was chatting with friends while sipping coconut water, when she suddenly froze. Across the lawn, behind the camera, was Okwiri. McKenna whispered to herself in surprise. "You've got to be kidding me." He was adjusting his lens, focused on capturing the couple. But when their eyes met, he smiled, just slightly, as if to say, "Fate has a funny sense of humor." McKenna laughed under her breath and gave a small wave. He raised his camera in response. Click! A candid photo of her laughing, framed forever. Throughout the day, they kept stealing glances. Whenever she laughed too loudly, he happened to be nearby. Whenever he moved through the crowd, she somehow ended up in his frame. By evening, fairy lights twinkled in the palm trees. The after-party had begun with music, laughter, and the ocean whispering nearby. McKenna sat by herself for a moment, toes in the sand, watching the waves. Then a familiar voice spoke behind her. "Is this seat taken?" She looked up and saw Okwiri, and her heart did a flip. "That depends." "Are you done turning everyone into art?" She answered. "Almost, but the best photo of the day was an accident," said Okwiri. "Let me guess. Me, running into your frame again." She smiled. "Exactly," replied Okwiri. They both laughed, and then for a while they just talked. About travel, about work, and about how small the world really is. There was something easy about their conversation, like two people catching up after years, even though they'd only met the day before. By the time the DJ played the last song, Okwiri looked at her and said softly, "I'm taking the morning train back to Nairobi." "You?" "Same. Carriage 3, she replied. "Then I guess fate's not done with us yet," he remarked with a smile. The next morning, the train hummed north again. McKenna found her seat, and there he was, camera in hand, smiling. They talked the entire way about family, faith, and what they wanted out of life. He showed her his photos. She showed him her sketches and notes. They laughed about everything and nothing. At one point, they shared snacks and stared out the window, watching the Tsavo plains roll by. Red soil, acacia trees, and elephants in the distance. McKenna said quietly, "Funny, isn't it, how people meet?" To which Okwiri replied, "Yeah. You almost missed the train, and I almost missed you." She smiled, and in that quiet moment between the rhythmic clatter of the tracks, something changed. It wasn't dramatic, just a quiet knowing. When the train finally slowed into Nairobi, neither wanted the journey to end. "So, same train next weekend?" Okwiri asked. McKenna laughed. "I thought you didn't do reruns." "For this story, I'll make an exception," Okwiri said. They exchanged numbers, and as McKenna stepped off the platform, the city lights reflecting in her eyes, she realized she was smiling without even knowing it. Months passed. They started seeing each other often, coffee dates, road trips, and small adventures that made ordinary days feel like magic. Okwiri photographed her often, not posed, not perfect, just real. And each picture told a story of how two people almost missed each other, but didn't. Sometimes when people asked how they met, McKenna would grin and say, "I caught the last train, barely." And so, friends, love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it catches you mid-run and out of breath, with your skirt stuck on a bench and your heart wide open. So here's to the missed stops, the second chances, and the stories that begin on the way to somewhere else. If you enjoyed this story, kindly subscribe to get more love stories. Hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post new stories, and please share with your friends and family. Bye for now and see you on the next one.